So I'm not tipping anymore. I'm done. I'm out. Used to be you would give a tip if somebody gave exceptional service. When was the last time you got exceptional service anywhere? And it's just expected. They bring you the bill at the end and they're like, here, just fill this out. 20%, 25%. No, you did your job. They made food. You carried it to my table. You got me a Diet Coke. Thank you. That was your job. You don't get 25% because you did your job. And I'm not the bad guy here. I'm not. If you own a restaurant, just tell me what it costs. I don't want people to go hungry. What does it cost for me to get my food, and also so that the wait staff doesn't have to join the cartel, do some Lord of the Flies, Oliver Twist? I want people to be taken care of. Just tell me what it costs.
Facts. If you can't tell already, today's video is going to be on tipping culture. And I agree with him. I feel like it's gone a little bit out of hand, especially those counter service ones where you pretty much order at the counter, they provide you your food at the counter, and you seat yourself. So who am I really tipping? Come on. It's different. Good service, I will say, deserves a good tip. But bad service, do they get a tip by default? I'm not saying that was his explanation, but I want to put that in consideration too, because we've experienced some bad service at restaurant. We don't go often, but from the past few times that we've gone, it doesn't feel the same. Anyway, let's go through the comments. Yes, tipping is out of control. This one got 315 replies. You're so right, but not tipping your server doesn't hurt the employer's pocket. It's not going to make them more money. Even minimum wage is down. In Europe, tip is not mandatory. You can leave as much as you want. It should be the same way here in the States as well. It used to be. Now they have the 18%, 20%, 25% as if it's mandatory. It's not. Those are optional. It's voluntary. But the culture or the strategy of, especially those little kiosks where they turn the payment system to you when the server turns it to you and they're right there. It's as if they're kind of guilt tripping you to, I don't know, do 18, 20. I don't care. If the service was excellent, maybe I'll do 15%. But some of them, the gratuity is mandatory. It's already put on the tab. And some of them label it as a service fee. What are we doing? How many fees am I just want to eat a sandwich. How much more fees am I going to have to pay just to eat a sandwich? Same with stores asking for donations. I don't mind tipping at a restaurant, but at a Subway, the car wash, bars, nail salon, it's out of hand everywhere. Same, no more tipping. I don't get tipped for being a nurse and saving y'all lives, so I'm done too. Why also is it based on bill total? I order $50 lobster for $20 or the $20 chicken. They do the same work, but they're expected to tip twice as much. Wow, good point. All right, let's go to the next one.
I understand tipping 20% at a restaurant when I'm dining in, but am I obligated to tip at a restaurant when I place a to-go order? There's no service provided other than making a meal, and I drove to pick it up. Am I wrong here?
This is kind of middle ground here on the to-go order. Dining in, I'm outrageously tipping. Valets, I'm outrageously tipping. At a fast food joint, no. Tipping at the Starbucks line, no. This one, I'm kind of going to be 50. I got two thoughts on it. One is I don't want to be guilted into anything. I'm with you. B, almost never have I regretted being generous. There's very few times I look back, unless I was guilted into it, because they're in there working, and I'm just trying. I'm doing well. God's blessed me. Why not? Just be easy with it. I do resent this spin thing at the counter, and that is guilting. I'm not doing that.
Usually there's a compliment as they spin it. Hey, love your hair.
They never say that to me, George.
Oh.
I never get love.
You gotta go to Turkey. But I totally get it. People tip to avoid what he was talking about when they guilt trip you. Some people are pressured to avoid that awkwardness, so they just pick whatever and they do tip. So I get that. Social pressure sometimes is stronger than actual generosity. So that can be, the psychology can be manipulated into customers to tipping more or just tipping in general. Anyway, let's go to the comments. I've regretted tipping for to-go. I have regretted tipping for to-go order when I finally get home and see that the order is wrong. No more tips for those. Yikes. I'm also not tipping 20% unless it's good service. I do 10% to go. Oh, he does 10% to go. Wow. So now the tipping is 20%? I remember it was 10% back when it went up to 15%, and I've been doing that ever since. That's how I grew up. 10%, 15% if it was exceptional, but typically 10% on carry out, 20% if I dine in. As someone who worked fast food, it's an extremely hard job that's majority underpaid. We need and deserve tips. See, by his admission, and I'm not saying it's solely on this person making this comment, but for owners, is tipping a way to bifurcate wages, the low wages that you're having to give your employees? It seems like that's the case. But I've heard, I have not confirmed this, some companies, they don't even give the tips to the employees. Or it's some sort of, it's provided to them in different ways. So again, I've heard, it's not been confirmed by me. Do your own research. But I've heard that's the case in some areas of work that involves tipping. But you really want to question, how much is it going to take to where your servers are compensated appropriately? You, as a business owner, will still be able to run your business, make revenue, hopefully make a profit. And me, as a customer, will not feel guilt-tripped for either giving you an appropriate amount, not enough, or too much, right? Just in general, the economy now, we're facing inflation. Now we got to face tipflation. It's a lot. Anyway, sorry for the rant. Let's keep going on the comments. It depends on the restaurant and how they take out is ran for me to the tip. As a hostess who does to-goes, it's totally fine if you don't tip unless it's a big order or curbside. As a former to-go person, we're on the same pay side most of the time, in parentheses, as servers. However, we don't expect 20% because we're not doing the same. There you go. All right, let's go to the next one.
Hot take from someone that has been serving and bartending in restaurants for years. I do not care if you do not tip. Because at the end of the day, yes, it does suck if you don't tip, because that means that your server or your bartender is paying for you to eat at that establishment because they have to tip out based on how much your table bought. But at the end of the day, it all evens out because some people tip more while some people tip less. I'm just never going to be a person that's going to chase you into the parking lot asking why you didn't tip me. For the love of God, if you're not going to tip, can we skip the whole, you're the best server we've ever had, this is the best restaurant experience we've ever had, I'm going to write such a good Yelp review about you, and tipping with your word? Because every single time someone says, you're the best server we've ever had, this is the best experience ever, I immediately know I'm either not getting a tip or I'm getting a horrible tip. Newsflash, words of affirmation don't pay my bills. I'm not infringing on your right to not tip. I'm just saying, can we leave these weird niceties at the door where you're trying to make yourself feel better about stiffing the server or bartender? Just don't leave a tip and then leave. Crazy concept, I know.
There you go. Straight from a server as it relates to verbal tipping, I guess, or flattery opposed to monetary, right? I didn't realize that. There you go. Typically the ones that flatter you if you're a server are the ones that stiff you at the end. Oh man. Yikes. Well, so is the business shifting responsibility to the customer? What we mentioned, or what I mentioned earlier, in terms of appropriating the right wage, right, for your employees. It seems like that's the case in most of these situations. Well, we've seen 3, but it seems like that is the case. All right, let's go to the comments. This is why I stopped eating out. I'd rather they lose their job from a lack of business. Wait a minute, the server bartender has to cover unpaid tips? To who and why? How does that work? Or is it even legal? I always tip unless the service is god-awful, which only happened once. I just find what you said crazy. Let's dive into this. There's 9 replies. On top of what everybody else is saying, how much we tip out is calculated on how much food we sell. Typically, servers tip out 3% of their total food sales to hosts or bartenders, because without them, we wouldn't be able to do our job. It doesn't seem like a lot, but if a server sells $1,000 worth of food in one night, which is pretty average amount, then the tip is about $30 to other people, even if nobody tips the server for the whole night. The server does in fact have to tip out to other people. It's very rare, but I've seen someone clock out with less money than he had when he clocked in. Is that legal? Wow. I guess it's all based on your terms and agreement with your employer, but man, that seems like a no-go for me. There's usually bussers, bartenders, and food runners that servers have to tip out a percentage of their sales to those people. To answer your question, it's against federal labor law, and you can sue your employer for it. Well, there you go. One person may or may not have reviewed the labor law. Probably should check that on your own. Do your due diligence. All right, let's go to the next one.
I don't believe in tipping, and here's why. The other day I went to Shake Shack, placed my order on an iPad. I got absolutely no service, yet on the iPad, I got asked if I wanted to tip. And they had the audacity to start at 15, 18, or 20%. Or how about this one? I went to a bar, I bought a drink, and in my receipt has a tipping option at the bottom. But they sneakily put in a service charge right above the tipping option. So whether I want to or not, I have to tip either way. Why are they asking me to tip twice? And then there's Starbucks. So I ordered my drink, which is already $5, and then they have the audacity to ask me to tip as well. As someone who's worked in the hospitality industry for over 5 years, I strongly believe that tipping is correlated with the service that you offer. If you're already getting paid and it's your job to take an order and hand over a coffee, why do you have to ask for a tip? I'm not against tipping in general. I appreciate when somebody goes out of their way to ask me how my meal was, and I reward that with a tip to thank them. But when I get asked for money and I get nothing in return, is that really on me? I don't believe in tipping, and here's why. The other day I went to Shake.
Facts. I agree with him. Especially this, like I was talking about in the beginning of the video. Shake Shack. You make your order. They make it in the bag. They give it to you at the counter. You seat yourself. You clean your mess when you're done. You put it in the trash. You put the tray where it belongs. What am I tipping for? Man. All right. Let's go to the comments. Tipping culture is just going out of control. Tipping is a big scam. Why are we paying their wage? That's the owner's problem. Like what we mentioned earlier. Tipping is out of control now. It's a scam. You're paying for the boss's wages. Agree 110%. Tipping has gotten out of hand. People think I'm nuts, but I think tipping should be a flat rate. Why should it matter if the order's a $100 steak or a $25 Caesar salad? Should my service be just as good regardless of what I order? That's a good point. I'm going to look at the replies real quick. Got 19 replies. Here's an idea the entire rest of the world uses. Just pay the employees a proper wage. There you go. All right, let's go to the next one.
So you're telling me that if you are a waiter and you work by tips, you're going to sit me down, take my order, not even come one damn time to check on my table, not refill my waters, not refill my drinks, not ask me how everything is, not check on me the whole time we are there, and I'm in the wrong for not wanting to tip you? Let me know if I'm tripping that I don't want to tip you because you're working off of tips, and at the same time you would think you would give it a little effort to want to earn a tip. I don't need to just leave you a tip just because tipping culture says you have to. I don't have to leave you a tip. At least have customer service for me to want to leave you a tip. Am I the only one that agrees with that? If you are an ass and you're not being really taken care of at a restaurant, you're not going to leave a tip. I don't need to. Am I in the wrong? Let me know.
Nope, brother. Based on what you're saying in terms of the interaction, I don't think so. At the end of the day, you are the customer. You have the money that they are after. That's why they're doing the service. That's why they're providing the food, whatever it is. They're not doing it for free. This isn't a non-profit. They are a for-profit business. With that, they're not the only one. If it's not working out, go to another establishment, right? So every day as a business owner, these folks are fighting stay afloat, not to stay afloat, but to stay in business. And with that comes the responsibility of serving their patrons, whatever their industry is. In this case, most of the tipping is done in restaurants, right? In service business. With that said, they're not the only one. So I agree with him. It's their job. Now, in the US, it is our culture to tip, but it is by no means a guaranteed tip, right? It's still voluntary. So I 100% agree with him. All right, let's go to the comments. Tips are earned, not an automatic, especially when they can't even do their job. 100%. I agree. If your livelihood depends on tips, then serve like it does. There you go. Tipping is out of control. Why are we tipping on the cost of my food order? Because I want lobster and steak, I owe more money? That's been the common theme that we're noticing from these comments here. All right, let me read one more. I remember back when give a tip was appreciation of the service that you've received. But nowadays, they feel like they deserve it no matter what. Facts. Let's go to the next video.
I asked my table for a tip after they were gonna stiff me, and I don't care how much hate I get for this. Everybody talks about this tipping culture, that no, but let me break it down for you. It's a Saturday night. I'm being told I'm gonna get a party of 16, which I said, great, bring it on. Let's go, easy money. So I thought. So the party of 16 gets sat in my section. They take up 3 tables in my section. So when you get sat at a party, you usually get skipped in rotation a few times because you're dealing with a big party. I get to the table, I introduce myself, I do my whole spiel. Before I'm finished even speaking, one guy's like, whoa, hey, stop. He said, hold on. He said, you're not going to talk to them, you're going to talk to me. I'm going to order everybody's food and then I'll give you the drinks. I said, perfect, what are we having a drink? He said, no, I'm going to give you the food first and then I'm going to give you the drinks. I said, perfect, what will you be having? Ordered 6 vegetarian combos, which comes 2 veggie patties, 2 protein pancakes, egg whites, and a side of fruit. He said, but we don't want egg whites. All of the egg whites, change them out for hash browns. On those hash browns, I want you to add jalapenos and onions. Great, let's do that. Then he proceeds to order 7 omelets, which come with 3 pancakes each. Perfect. After that, when he gives me the drinks, he orders 15 waters, no ice, 14 hot chocolates with whipped cream, and 1 regular coffee with regular milk. I said, perfect, I've sent in the order for you. He said, and make it quick because we have somewhere to be. That's where I almost lost my shit. Because how do you come out to a restaurant, order 7 omelets, and tell me to hurry up? I said, you know what, sir? There is other people in this restaurant. It probably won't come out as fast as you'd like it to, but we will definitely try our best. When I tell you that the kitchen this food out in like that, the kitchen got this food out quick. I had 2 other servers help me run food. We were all carrying a bunch of hot plates, took it to the table. They got everything that they needed. Before the food got to their table, they all had already napkins, syrup, hot sauce. They had everything that they could have needed to enjoy their meal. So they enjoy their food, whatever. I'm checking on them. They keep saying everything's great. When it came down to give them the check, I gave the check to the guy who was like, oh, I'm going to order everything. I'm going to pay for everything. Great. I gave him the check. The check was $320 with some change. And when it came to pay, he pays me cash. He gives me $321, which means no tip. And I was like, so I went to the table. There's no tip at the table, anything. I said, I'm going to go ask him. So I went up to him. I said, excuse me, sir, you only gave me $321. I just wanted to ensure that this was accurate. You're not going to leave any gratuity. I just wanted to make sure everything came out to your expectations. You enjoyed your food. Everything was to your liking. And, I just want to make sure. He said, well, I didn't know it was mandatory. I said, no, it's not mandatory. I just wanted to ensure that this was accurate, that nobody took the tip off the table or anything like that. This man pulls out a $50 bill, gives it to me. Here's your tip and shut the fuck up. Get out my face type shit, which I don't give a fuck, because how dare you go out to eat in a party of 16 on a tab of $320 and not tip? And I feel like nobody was going to believe me, so I saved the check. I'm going to show y'all. This check is literally half my size. I'm not even playing with you right now. $320, right? Minimum 15% gratuity would have been $48. So he basically just gave me the minimum, which is fine. But if you don't got money to go to tip on your meal, don't even go out to eat. And I'm not talking, if you're by yourself and you get a $15 meal, I'm not saying leave $30 tip. No. Not everybody's set up like that. Not everybody knows the industry. But how dare you go out to eat? 16 people, rack up a tab of $320, be rude to your fucking server, enjoy your service still, and not fucking tip. I don't care. I did what the fuck I did. I don't give a fuck. And my servers, I know y'all felt that shit. Sometimes we just gotta sit here and make sure, because I wanted him to admit to me that he wasn't leaving me a tip on a $320 tab. I wanted him to admit to me that he came out to eat with 16 of his friends and family members and decided not to tip. I wanted him to admit it. I would have been fine. Cool, that's the type of person you are. But he gave me my tip, so whatever. But nobody was gonna believe me. Look how fucking big this...
Wow. That's a big receipt. I've done that. Well, I didn't stiff the server or the restaurant, but I've had a large party. I think it was like 30 or something like that. And it happens. I understand it. Although, I will say, when you're at a certain number of patrons or customers, I think it was like 8 or so. It depends on the restaurant. Anyway, some of them have it as mandatory. So you can't just pay for your food, your drinks, tax, and call it a day. No, the restaurant puts a mandatory gratuity or service fee on there, depending on X number of customers at your table, and if you exceed that. So I'm surprised with as many folks as they had, that wasn't mandatory. But again, some restaurants do it differently. But he was definitely upset. Enough to put it on TikTok. All right, let's look at the comments. I'm not tipping anyone who feels entitled to it. Sorry, not. This one got 142 replies. Tips aren't mandatory, but for that big of a bill, 3% of that bill would have tipped the bartender, the host, which means it will come out of our pockets when people don't tip. Some people don't know the industry. I don't know the industry that well. I'm learning as I'm watching these videos and reading these comments. That's kind of why I like doing these too. I learn. That's not our fault though. Pick a different job if you're not happy with how you get paid. Oh, we have to? No, we don't. Well, there's a lot more replies. All right, let's go to the next one. Ma'am, that's your job. All right, I think this one's going to get juicy. 121 replies. You shouldn't have been mean, but no, I hate when servers get mad over tips. And before someone starts, I am a server myself, and I don't demand tips. CSS, at the end, I still walk out with what I didn't have. How do you know he was mean? It's her perspective. She could have altered the story to fit the clout. There's always 3 sides to a story. Your side, my side, and the truth. All I said was, he should have been mean. But demanding a tip is diabolical. If she needs a tip, she needs to change her jobs. There you go. I'll read one more. It's not illegal to not tip. If you can't afford to tip them, stay home. That door swings both ways. If your employer doesn't pay you enough, then get another job. Yikes. It's getting heated in the comment section. All right, let's go to the next one.
I'm so over tipping. It's gone too far. And so here's my new perspective, my new strategy when it comes to tipping. Number 1, I am not tipping anywhere where they ask me to tip before I experience the service. For example, I went and got a $9 smoothie the other day, and right when I was like ordering my smoothie, I was like, oh, I'll get the breakfast smoothie. Then they're like, I'm just gonna ask you a few questions. The answer is no. 1, y'all haven't made my smoothie. 2, I haven't tasted my smoothie. 3, I don't even know if I'm gonna like this smoothie yet. Why am I tipping? No, I'm not tipping. Also, it's a smoothie. It's not like a sit-down restaurant. What are we doing? There's a lot of places that make sense to tip, like restaurants. You experience the food, you experience the service, you're sitting down, you're being served. Of course you leave a tip there. But again, that tip is based off the experience. Same thing, nail salons. You get your nails done, you pay and you tip based off the service. I'm not tipping preemptively. So that goes for coffee shops where they turn it around, ask you questions, ice cream shops, anywhere. Ice cream shops alone is just a no for me. You scooped my ice cream for 15 seconds and put it in a cup. No. You guys are paid hourly rates. If they're not enough, talk to your employer. But why is that burden being put on the consumers? I will never understand. As a business owner, imagine if every single time you guys bought a planner from my site, it was like, oh, just leave a tip for what? We hand make all your planners and I'm still leave a tip for what? No.
I'm with her 100%. Totally agree with all of it, because for all the things I've said leading up to this part of the video. She pretty much said everything I said. Oh man, what are we doing? I totally agree with you. And I feel her frustration with this whole tipping culture and what it's developed into. It's all planned. In my opinion, I feel like it's all planned to get us to this point. And I got to tell you what, not everybody's not going to tip. Some people, they tip, especially in the United States. That's the culture. So if they're generous, just I think for me, in my opinion, Americans are just generous. So at the end of the day, if you're going to tip or not tip, it's in favor of the business. Likely a patron will tip. And as it relates to the experience, 100%, I totally understand where she's coming from. Otherwise, I could just cook everything from home. I make everything from home, go to the grocery store, get my supplies, do everything at home, and not have to go out. But you go out for the experience. You go out with your loved one, your family, your friend, a co-worker, for an event, date, whatever it is. You go for the experience. And that, in my opinion, I agree with her. You're paying for the experience. All right, let's go to the comments. I tipped my nail tech 10% of 120. She said, "Woo, ghetto over here. Not going back. I'm exhausted." Wow, that's rude. I wouldn't be back there either. There's a question on the screen. Haha, my least favorite question. Turn the computer around and look away. Yes, please look away so you don't have to watch me hit the no. Let's go to the next one.
Since some of y'all have never worked in a restaurant in your life and don't know how a tip out works and think that servers just always make a fuck ton of money out of thin air, let me break it down for you because I don't think you understand. Okay, hey, for example, I have a party of 2 that spends $100. A 20% tip would be $20, okay? But wait, I don't take all that home. No, because I have something called a tip out. Ever heard of it? Let me break it down for you. A tip out. It can be about 3 to 6% of your sales. Sometimes it's of your tips. But at my job, it's a 3% tip out on sales. So if my tab is $100, I'm tipping 3% out, which is $3. Now that 3% goes evenly to hostesses, bartenders, and food runners. But if you work outside, there's actually another percent, which is 4 in total. And that extra 1% goes to a server assistant. Anyways, let's say I'm working outside and I have to tip out 4% on that $20 tip that I got from the $100 table. Okay, so that $20 is now $16. But wait, there's always more. Because you see, I have a credit card fee in my job for some unknown fucking reason. And that's usually an extra 0.5 to 1%. So that $16 is now $15. But wait, I have to pay taxes too. So I'm probably making about $13 or $14 from that $100 table, from that $20 tip. So if you're tipping me $10 on 100, I'm making $3 or $4. Fuck you. Order to-go food. Make some fucking food at home. Don't fucking come here and sit at my table. I'm a good-ass server. I'm attentive. I'm funny. I'm charming. I'm cute to look at, I guess. It's not nice. Makes me want to fucking... Anyways, I hope you learned something today. I hope we all learned something today. Don't be a fucking asshole.
I'm not going to wherever you work. Not after this video. No way. I know I'm going to get talked about regardless. Server like you? Yikes. Well, I'm luck in your endeavors. Hopefully you get tipped out because of this video and you do what you got to do. But no thanks. I will not be going to whatever serving establishment you serve at. So that's just my opinion. That's for me. That's based on this video. You put it out there on TikTok for us to see. That's my opinion. So, because I have a $100 meal, I should tip you $20. You come to my table 5 times. That means you want $4 every time you come to my table? Yeah, I don't think so. You're getting robbed at work, but I'm not letting you rob me. Ooh, applies. I don't really care how the tip world works. I go in, I eat, I pay for what I eat, not for your wage. That's the way I look at it. If you don't like being a waitress with the pay you're getting there, then go for another job. $100 billion is usually an hour sitting table. $100 billion. What? What are you saying? An hour sitting table in my section. So bro, you put 100 billion. I don't understand. The tip I give is solely based on the server's performance and attitude, not by the hour. Good service and good treatment gets 20 to 30% or higher. Poor treatment, service, ignoring me, forgetting food, drinks, and even demanding a tip will get you less to nothing. The choice is up to the server. Sounds like you need a new job. It's not the consumer's responsibility to compensate your salary. You should be angry at these corporations making record profits every year and paying you next to nothing. I don't understand why people get angry at the customer. They should be paying you a decent salary, period. Tips are not required. I don't care what way you put it, they are not required. Start looking at who's to blame for this. You keep punching down instead of up. From the creator. That's not how a restaurant works. If they are in charge of covering our salary, going out to eat would become completely unaffordable. Restaurants operate the way they do because of how the tip system is in place. That's her opinion. There you go. All right, I'll read one more. Listen, I used to serve for years and I get it, but for real, the tip should be generous, little bit bonus for doing a good job, not something the customer is obligated to pay. I know I'm talking about an entire overhaul of the American dining experience, but employers should pay a livable wage and tipping shouldn't be such an obligation. I didn't hire you, I just ordered a burger and you said it costs X dollars, so I should pay you X dollars and leave. Period. From the creator. 20% is standard for good service, extra is up to your discretion. Standard, not required or mandatory, kind of point he was making. So again, just based on your answers to these comments to that have been in the industry as well, I don't know, in my opinion, just the way you're presenting yourself, the way you're answering the questions, I can kind of why you're frustrated. Anyway, I'm moving on.
Since tipping culture has gotten insane in the United States, this is a list of things I will tip for and things I will not tip for. And this is probably going to be an unpopular opinion, but I will tip my food delivery drivers, whether that be DoorDash or Uber Eats. But if my food comes with something missing, if it is delayed and it comes cold, or if you don't follow delivery instructions, I'm not going to tip you. Like if I ask you to leave the food at the door and you keep blowing up my phone to come outside to walk to your car to pick up my food, I'm not tipping you anymore. If I ordered a large fries and chicken nuggets and the fries is halfway done, no drink in my meal, I'm not tipping. And don't even get me started when the drive be taking mad long. I don't even know how that happens, but one time I ordered food and it legit took 2 hours to get to me. I'm not tipping for that. Any other thing I will tip for. Another thing I will not tip for are food services that I provide to myself. If I go to a froyo place and I make the froyo myself, I add my own toppings, why would I then get to the front of the register and you switch the register to me to tip? You didn't do anything for me but ring me up. I'm not tipping for that. And the reason I feel this way is because when I was in high school, I worked like a bullshit job where I was literally at the kiosk and I did not do anything. So I didn't expect people to tip me if they were doing all their food services by themselves. Another thing I will not tip for are certain beauty services. Like if paying you to get my hair done and all that cash is going to you, I will not tip, especially if y'all have a cancellation fee, a late fee, and then you guys show up late to my appointment. You expect me to pay for that? No. Don't get me wrong, I tip servicers if the service is excellent. Like I'll send extra money. But if you inconvenienced me in any single way and I'm still paying full price, I do not feel the need to tip. One thing that I do tip for that I feel like the common population does not tip for are people who pump my gas. So I live in New York and it's not common for people to pump gas, but I will literally drive the extra 3 blocks, 4 blocks, whatever, to go to a gas station so that they can pump my gas for me. I know it's extra. I will literally tip the guys that pump my gas because they're literally doing manual labor. They're doing something that I don't want to do for myself. So yeah, I'll tip. And then around Christmas time or when it's winter and it's colder, I tip them even extra because they're standing out in the cold when I don't want to do that, or if it's raining too. Finally, I always tip at sit-down restaurants because I know in the United States it's so messed up, they do not get paid enough. But if the service is bad, I am not going to tip, and I'm going to stand by that. Tipping is supposed to be gratitude for the service, but if the waiter comes and they're rude or something is wrong, I'm not tipping for that. For example, I was in a very, very, very expensive restaurant too long ago, and one of the waiters legit poured an entire bottle of wine on one of the people that was at my table. They were also wearing all white.
And then instead of making this issue a better thing, the managers came and they were trying to default, like, no, I'm not that. You spilled a whole entire bottle of wine on one of the guests. I'm not tipping. But yeah, let me know if you guys want a part 2 about things I will tip and not tip for.
Yikes. I didn't know about the, I think do that, where they pump your gas for you. I think it's great. I'm assuming when it was first created, gas stations, attendants would do that for you. But I think for the most part, majority of the states in the U.S., it's self-service, right? But for the ones that do that, yeah, I don't mind to that. All right, let's go to the comments. So you revoke a driver's tip for something the restaurant did? Okay. A Froyo employee rise and gave me a stank attitude after I hit no tip. What does the missing food or halfway cooked fries have to do with the delivery driver? It's not their job to check. It's the restaurant's. Halfway done, as in the food is missing, and I was referring to before it used the seal for food delivery bags. Oh, that was tampered with. There you go. All right, let's go to the next one.
I'm not sure what the fuck just happened, but I went into a sandwich shop and I went up to the window, ordered the sandwich I wanted, which was a pre-built menu. It wasn't like I went down the line and you built the sandwich for me in front of me. I ordered, I got a drink, and I went to pay for it, which I picked up at a different window. And I went to go pay, and I pressed no on a tip, and the transaction went through, and she said, "You didn't tip me." I said, "I know." I was very kind, very polite. She said, "Why not?" And I said, "Well, I ordered it. I'm getting it to go. There was, there was a tip needed." She goes, "Well, everybody tips us." And she goes, "We're making yours for you." And I said, "Isn't that what your hourly wage is for?" And I guess I was like dumbfounded just a little, and I still am in shock and speechless just a little bit. But I am all for tips where it's deserved. Bartenders, servers, your hair, and however that works, and you're part of the, if it's built or you go to whatever. I am all for leaving a tip when it's a service job that you have given me a service for, and an appropriate tip. But all I did was walk to the window, order, and take it with me. Why should I have been felt guilty to not have left a tip on an $8 sandwich that was on your menu? I don't know. I gotta get over that one before I drive away.
I am with her 100%. Kind of like what talking about throughout this video. This guilt trip, this new tipping culture, and the audacity of that cashier. Why didn't you tip me? For what? So I get it. Totally get it. All right, let's go to the comments. Tipping culture needs to end. I'm done for business owners. I'm a server, and I will not be tipping for fast food. From a server. There you go. Counter or drive-through tipping. Nope. Unless I'm seated and you're servicing a table that I'm sitting at, there will be no tip. Your employer covers your wages. Transaction over. Tip culture is out of control these days. Tipping fatigue. Enough is enough. All right, one more. I think it's time we stop tipping, to be honest. I think people should just be paid a decent wage, and we shouldn't have to worry about paying extra for buying food somewhere else. Woo! All right. What a video. What an episode. Well, with that, we'll end it here. If you found any value with this video, consider subscribing. Thank you for your attention. We'll see you on the next video.